Hello, and welcome to this session on the memory, or as I've headed it up, memory is influence. Your presentation will have a purpose, but ultimately the purpose of your presentation is to change something about your audience. Now that might be something that you want them to be able to do, something that you want them to think, or maybe just to give them a different view on the world. But ultimately your presentation is about the audience and you want to change something about their state. The reason the memory is so important is that if they can't remember what you've said, you've got no way of influencing them. And so one of the things that this series of sessions will do is they will focus on the kind of things which are memorable. Why do we remember certain things rather than others? There are no formal notes to go with this series of videos. However, if you do have any questions or if you would like to get in touch, you can contact us on the email you can see on the screen. kta@kaplan.co.uk. My name is John Bennett and I'm part of the Kaplan Tutor Academy, which is part of Kaplan in the UK and Ireland. Now I could tell you a big story about how great the organisation is, what our revenue is, how many students we help pass exams and everything along those lines. But I don't want to do that. I want to take you back to where the business started all those years ago in 1953. By a guy going by the name of Victor Anderson, who started his business in a tiny hamlet in North Wales, in a stately home in a place called Caerhun. And Caerhun is actually where the Tutor Academy is based today. And I think one of the nice things about the business is, even though the business has been around for 60 or plus years now, which suggests that we must be doing a couple of things right, the fact is we still have this mission statement, which is helping students achieve their career goals one success story at a time, which I think is something that Victor all those years ago could very much relate to. And so I think it's quite nice that even though we are this big organisation, it can be traced back to this one man and this one place. Now, in terms of what I'm going to move on to cover, I mentioned it before, but the fact is we remember some things more than others. And what I want to do now is I want to tell you a story about something which happened to a friend of mine, probably going on for about sort of 6-7 years ago. We'll call him Graham. Now Graham was on a business trip in the Far East and he found himself in a bar one night having a drink when a very attractive lady came over and she offered to buy him a drink. That doesn't happen to Graham very often, so of course he jumped at the opportunity. So the lady went over to the bar, bought him a drink, passed it over to him. The next thing that Graham remembered was waking up in the morning in a hotel room in a bathtub full of ice. And he looked over and there was a note taped to the wall and it said, "Don't move, call 911, and there was a mobile phone on the side of the bath. Now Graham was in a terrible panic, so grabbed hold of the phone, dialed 911, operator on the other end of the line. "What's happened to you?" He goes, "Well, I don't know, I'm just in this bath of ice water and I've been told that I need to go." She goes, "Okay, what's your name?" "Graham." "Okay, Graham, what I want you to do is I want you to reach down behind yourself very carefully. Okay, is there a rubber tube coming out of you?" Graham reaches round. "Yeah, the rubber tube coming out of me." "Okay, Graham, here's what we're going to do. There's a paramedic on the way to you. Your kidneys have been harvested by international organ thieves." Now, of course that story never actually happens, but it is one of the most famous urban legends of all time. It was doing the rounds for many years on the internet. Now what I'm quite interested in is, why is it that this story should be remembered? And the fact is, memorable stories share one or more of the following characteristics. Now all of this is based on research done by the Heath brothers, Chip and Dan Heath, which can be found in their fantastic book which is called Made to Stick. Chip and Dan Heath say that memorable stories share one or more of the following characteristics. Firstly, they're simple. So if we relate that back to the Kidney Heist story, that's a nice simple idea, isn't it? It's, you know, a simple theme. Don't take drinks from strange women in pubs. Okay, you know, we could sort of talk about watch out for criminals and that kind of stuff, but it's not real enough. We need a nice simple message. It's unexpected. The last thing Graham was expecting on his night out was to lose a kidney, and I'm sure we can all relate to that. We also use this concept of something called concrete. Now, when we talk about something being concrete, what we mean here are things, not concepts, not something abstract. So you can relate that to the story. So you can think about the bath, you can think about the kidneys, you can think about how cold the water and the ice would have been, the taste of the drink or something like that. But all of these are things. You've also got credibility. Now, I guess credibility is maybe one of the areas where this story falls down. We're more likely to remember something if it's true, or if we can add credibility to it by suggesting that, you know, somebody else has done it, or someone famous, or someone to whom our audience can relate has done something like this before. So that's credibility. The best tales tug on our emotions. If you haven't heard that story before, how does it make you feel? Disgusted? Scared? Amused even? But in one way, shape or form, we relate to each other on an emotional basis. And then finally, it's a story. Stories are what bind us together as species. Stories are things which have sort of passed down the ages. And stories have been around a lot longer than the written world. Stories were the way that ideas were passed to generation to generation to generation back in the day. So, what you're going to see over the following series of short videos is myself doing a live presentation to an audience, talking in a little bit of detail about each of these 6 concepts.